Record and let's see it all.
We're live.
Oh, all right, there we go. Now everybody.
Man, it is a party. Okay. It goes on and on.
All right, 32 people. It's good to see everybody's faces. Hello, hello. We're coming to you from a rainy day in Georgia. Hopefully there's better weather wherever you are. All right, we will. Uh-oh, snow in Minnesota. Scary and raining in Wisconsin. Yes, we've been having lots of ups and downs. We had like nice warm temperatures, and then now it's getting colder and rainy, but hopefully not for too long. Oh, South Carolina. Yes, the pollen. Yes, the pollen. Definitely feeling that.
The pollen is wild. I was walking outside with my phone because I'm a little bit of a nerd. I recently downloaded Pokemon Go, and I see on my screen. I was like, what are these particles on my screen? Is that pollen? And then I felt it in my throat. I was like, oh my goodness, this pollen is egregious.
Yes, and more winter weather in a lot of places too. Third winter. Oh, Rachel. Righty, well, let's see where we're at. 36 of y'all. That's awesome. Okay, well, we will go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us for this conference follow-up session. This is really designed to be just an informal session that there'll be some facilitation and it's designed to help you just reconnect with your intentions from the conference. We know that conferences are great and, a lot of energy and a lot of fun. And while you're there, it's really good. And then we get back to reality a lot of times. And it's hard to put things in motion and follow up with the things that we thought about because we have, the day-to-day reality of life. So that is why we're here. And we can do just some quick introductions. I'm Judith Brower with the Associate Director with NISTS, and I'll let my colleague Joe introduce himself.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Morning, some other places. I'm Joe Risby. I'm Program Coordinator with NISTS. It's my first year, and this was my first conference, and I had a ball. So if I saw you in person, hey, it was a pleasure to meet you, and I'm happy to see y'all online right now.
Yes, I just echo Joe's comments of the conference is probably our favorite time of year, just to see everybody together, and we work on it throughout the year, but the highlight is getting to see all of you at the conference. So very cool. And if you want to take a second and just introduce yourself in the chat, just quick like name and your role in your institution, maybe your state, just to help us get to know each other. Feel free to do that. And let's see. So basically the format for today, we are going to, I'm going to provide some questions for reflection. So that will just be some time for you to think on your own. Maybe you want to write a little bit or type some of your thoughts down, and we will so that will be part of the time, and then another part of the time will be in breakout rooms where you can talk with each other about what's going on and your intended actions and maybe some different things you're thinking about or facing as you've gotten back into your day-to-day work. And a few guidelines. One, like any learning situation, take what's useful, and you don't have to take it if it's not useful. And I know some of you may have already done a lot of reflection, and that's great. And so if you feel like, oh, I've already answered that question, feel free to get into even more specifics with your specific action steps and what's next for you. And maybe even, you could even use the time to knock off some of the tasks on your list. If you have somebody that you want to email, or little things like that, or getting something on your calendar. So really you have the freedom to adjust as needed for your situation. And see if there's anything else I want to mention right now. I love seeing everybody's faces that have your cameras on. I know sometimes situations are such that you may not be able to have your camera on. We encourage it. We love to see your faces, and especially when you get in the breakout rooms, it's really helpful for interactions if you can have it on, if possible. If not, we understand that too. So, all right, let's dive into some reflection. I did also just want to mention that if you haven't seen the conference guidebook, the curriculum committee worked really hard on that, and we have some members here. I see Allison and Rachel and Shannon, and there are probably others here as well. So thank you for your hard work. It's a great guide for reflection. And if you didn't have a chance to look at it while you're at the conference, take a look at it, during or after this session. And yeah, and if you did have it, then you can go back and review your answers again. So, all right, to get started, I wanted us all to think back to your time in St. Louis and just think about what was energizing during that time. So the idea here is just to think of some things that kind of really gave you a boost to maybe draw on some of that positive energy. Maybe it was an aha moment during a session, or a great conversation with someone. Maybe it was something really delicious you had to eat. That's okay too. But how did it help kind of fill up your tank? So we're going to take just a couple minutes while we think about that question. Okay, I'm going to just mention some of the things I'm seeing in the chat of having people in similar roles at other institutions to talk with, being with people who understand the student population, transfer students and their struggles, and everyone's there because they want to support transfer students. I saw a lot of comments similar to that in the conference evaluation as well. Oh yeah, I love the be an irritant for change. I wasn't familiar with which session that came from, but I saw that in the evaluation too. I love that phrase. And yes, and also good mentions about food. That's also important, the yummy food, and being able to vent and talk with people. So really just, maybe take a minute to just help let these memories sink in and energize you again a little bit as we think about what we want to do moving forward. Okay, so now we're going to move into reflections and actions you might have that you had in mind as you were leaving the conference. when you were, still energized and had all that content fresh. Maybe you have some notes you may want to go back to, but think about yeah, you can start kind of more generally, and then I would say let's start generally and then move into like the top 1 to 3 things that you would like to give your time, energy, and attention to over let's just say like the next month, from now to the next month. So what are some of those top action items that you had when you left the conference? And they can be small or part of something bigger. So I've seen a lot of great responses in the chat to this as well. And some folks already, I saw Carolyn said, already using some tools from the conference meetings. Dual enrollment students, definitely important. Good thoughts. Okay, so as you think about these actions and ideas, consider your current reality and kind of the reality of things since you came back from the conference. And so kind of think about now and over the next month, what might you need to consider in terms of what's already on your plate and kind of seasonally where things are, maybe even thinking both professionally and personally, what might be on your schedule, so that you can just anticipate and adjust. So I guess the question is there anything, when you think about specific next steps, is there anything you might need to adjust based on the current realities at work, at home, and what's coming up over the next month? Set a timer. Okay, so definitely seeing some things like bureaucratic hurdles, having other processes in motion that then affect what you can or can't do, whether it's on your campus or at another institution. Concerns about just continuing the work being continued if you're going to be leaving, or changes in staff. And creating space, and being understaffed. I think a lot of people are definitely in that situation, and I think it's just really important to acknowledge the reality and not sugarcoat it, and not idealize things in your mind. If you're like me, I'm like, oh, I can do it all and it'll be great, and it doesn't really work out. So I just want to acknowledge that, like, that there are multiple layers there, and it can be hard, and to really be okay with adjusting and even scaling things back a little bit for now, and what small things can you do now. And the next question I had for you was to think about what support you need to take the next action. So I think part of that is knowing that you might need to scale things back and start small. And that might be one form of support for yourself, by just not having unrealistic or overly ambitious expectations. Other forms of support might be just colleagues that you can talk through things with, or either on campus or even among this group of people, or maybe you're like me and it really helps to have some accountability, and just a little check-in with somebody to know that, okay, they're going to ask if I did this thing. But so think about making your goals and actions realistic, and also what support you might need. And also just seeing some of these realities of change in leadership at the top, and then along with changes in leadership and changes in the priorities, and that is really difficult. And Michelle, yeah, just trying to change the culture a little bit, no big deal. These things take time. And I love seeing that people are thinking of other conference attendees as part of their network. And sometimes it is really helpful to have somebody outside your own institution. It's great to have both, but I'm glad we can support each other. Yes. And I think, it's that challenge, right? I think to me, the priority is finding the support you need first, and that's kind of your fuel to help you then try to take small actions, even if they, as much as you can, but knowing that it may be small, and being ready for those opportunities, but knowing that they the timing may or may not be right now, for sure. Okay, these are just really rich responses, and I appreciate y'all being willing to share so openly. Okay, so now we are going to transition into breakout rooms, and let's see, we've got 39 people. So I'm going to try and get you into groups of about 3 or 4. You're just going to be randomly assigned, and it's just a few guidelines. Not that I think you all are all probably familiar with this kind of thing, but you may feel a tendency to jump in and offer advice really quickly and help somebody fix their problem, but try and take a breath and pause and ask what they want or need. And if you are talking, maybe try to state the kind of support you're looking for, or if you are looking for advice or just somebody to listen. As I mentioned earlier, if possible, have your cameras on. That's just helpful. And a couple of kind of practical things. When I'm in these situations, we always spend a few minutes like, wait, are you going to start or am I going to start? So I'm just going to say, if this is helpful, just start with the person alphabetically, that their first name comes first alphabetically. It's just if that helps you get started. Let's see. Yeah, we'll be in the breakout rooms for I think I'm gonna give you guys, I'm gonna do like 15 or 20 minutes, give you a good long time, but just make sure that everybody has a chance to contribute and chime in. And also, if you make a good connection and you want to stay in touch, make sure to exchange your contact information, or at least get the name. And remember too that the conference app is still open and working, and so that's a great way to connect with people too, whether it's on the social wall or messaging individually. So I think that's it. And basically your task while you're in there in the breakout room, I mean, you can really do whatever you want, but but the idea is to share what you're thinking about taking action on. And if you want to talk through or strategize any barriers you feel like you're facing, and or if you identified some support that you might need, whether it's you want to connect with someone as an accountability partner or just talk through something. So that's really the parameters. Any questions before we do the breakout rooms? Let's see. Okay, and if for some reason you should all be in a group of 3 or 4, but if you need to come back to the main room and get reassigned, just do that and let me know. And all right, I am opening the breakout rooms. Oops, hold on. I'm opening them now. Started now.
Yeah.
Let's make sure.
By the way, Beth, I'm loving the background.
We are mastodons. Some people think it's going to trample me, but we actually have that out in the quad. I think the coolest mascot, at least in the Purdue system, but probably just like anywhere.
Spoiler up.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Here I am.
Oh, the
Look at
ducks. I think that was one of my. I love it. That was one of my favorite parts of the conference.
Yeah.
The ducks. Okay, as we're all coming back together, would anyone like to share anything that came up in your group?
Well, we were all 3 from, different institutions and different kinds of roles. but we had a good talk about transfer pathways and articulations and how can you make those simple and public for students so that they can, see how long, what's left, how much, and keep them on that path so that they can be successful in the thing they've chosen to do.
And I'll chime in too. In our little group, one of the topics was, connections to the institutions in between and pathway. And we actually have a pretty successful pathway program at the University of South Alabama. We've been doing it for about eight years now. So I just put our website into the chat because I wanted to share that with the two ladies I was chatting with. But we have those connections, and one of my takeaways from the conference was continuously building those partnerships and that trust and those lines of communication. So even though our program has been in existence for 8 years, we now have 7 community colleges in our program. It's, there's turnover, right? Advisors leave, counselors leave, administration leaves. I'm the 3rd person in our pathway program, so I'm fairly new to it, and they're getting to know me. And so having those open lines of communications helped me, like that conversation of just constantly like building that trust, building those relationships was one of my biggest pieces taken away from the conference. And so even though we have it established, it's still something you have to just keep on working at and maintaining. So yeah, I was excited to be able to share that with the ladies in our little breakout session.
That's a great point. Other thoughts or observations or things that came up?
Our group talked about a lot of things, but a lot of it was, kind of connecting people to other people. So Shannon, heads up, Laura's going to be reaching out to you about questions about engineering advising things. Because she was talking about, being an advising at Auburn in engineering and, kind of just some of the hurdles that transfers come into going into, STEM fields at really big schools. I'm like, have you met Shannon? I was like, as I know people who know things.
Awesome. That's great. I know that's on on my list of to-dos is like connecting people that from the conference that I know would benefit from each other.
We
talked about things.
Sorry, Lori, go ahead.
Oh, no problem. We talked about different things, but one thing that came up a lot was data collection, and that's an issue that's improving over the years, but it's still a concern. How do you know which students are moving on and being successful and matriculating? And then I mentioned that I was retiring, and so Shora said that definitely try to find a way to provide information. She was lucky that the person who was outgoing when she took her job, that they were able to give her a lot of advice and information about how things work. So I think that transition of replacement in transfer, it would be really good to have that knowledge pass on rather than lose it and have to start from scratch. I remember starting from scratch because I was the first person in this position.
Definitely important.
It's interesting because I was going to mention that we were talking about data too. And about how to collect data. You need the data to support anything that you want to change or ask for those resources, but they're very different kinds of data. And there's some data that's more meaningful than others. Some other data is just, it looks very pretty when you're presenting visually to someone else, but really it is hard to collect some of the data, especially from the students, if you want to hear the students' perspective. So we were talking about that, how we could better hear from the students.
I think sometimes gathering that more qualitative data can feel kind of overwhelming. I think there are ways to do it that are can be less overwhelming, but it gives some really a richer picture and get it to the why and students' experiences in a way that just the numbers can't. So it's important. Anybody else want to chime in?
I just wanted to say that, you know, workshops in data collection might be useful. What kind of data is available? What kind of data should we be looking for? What kind of data is useful? How would you use the data? I think that kind of training would be very helpful for a lot of people.
Yeah, there's a lot to it for sure. We do have a guide to using data. I'm just checking the official name, using data in our work with transfer students. And Joe, if you can drop that.
I'm one step ahead of you, Judith.
Oh, yeah. Perfect. Yes. And oh yeah, I forgot there's actually when I saw on your link the word webinar, I was like, wait, we did a webinar, but we have a guide, and then there's a webinar that you can watch that goes along with it. I even forgot that we had the webinar that went with it. So I also started, Joe, if you can drop that link to that resource document. I just, like, while you all were in breakout rooms, I just started putting in some resources, including, so we have that guide about using data, and then we have just a beta version of a tool to kind of help you assess your policies and practices related to transfer. We also have a guide specifically designed for faculty members. So if you're working with faculty, or you want to help them start thinking about what it means to support transfer students, that's really helpful. And then we also have a really comprehensive and potentially a little overwhelming guide to creating a transfer center website. So my advice there would be to just like take it a chunk at a time, and because it's a long document altogether, but you can easily kind of break out a piece. And I think we have linked on that page to a little just kind of like a self-assessment. Yeah, I think it's the transfer website snapshot tool that's on that page, where it kind of helps you just like take a first look at your website to assess how transfer friendly it is. So that's a good starting place. And then the other thing I added here too, they did a session at the conference. Folks from University of Central Florida, they have worked over several years of bringing faculty together from both the 4-year side and the 2-year side to align curriculum. And so they've put together a handbook that is, I think, really well done, and talks a lot about just building trust, among those two groups, and how to productively bring those two groups of folks together to work on curricular alignment. So hopefully some of those will be helpful. And I made it, I'm pretty sure I made it so that you all could edit as well. So you feel free if you have other things to add in. And just a reminder, the conference guidebook link is there. And I really would encourage you to go back and look through that if you haven't had a chance yet. There's just some great prompts for reflection about, and kind of to help you process all the information you got at the conference and break it down into action items. In the conference app, like I mentioned before, that's up, and hopefully you saw the email that went out yesterday that several sessions have been recorded and are available now through May 31st. The social wall is still up, so feel free to post a question there or share resources there, and you can message with people as well on there. Who did we get an email list of people in this meeting today? I think I think we could do that. My only thought was just like if everybody gives permission, but I'm thinking that if people were attendees at the conference, they probably gave permission. Maybe if anybody on here does not want us to share their email, you can shoot me a message.
Or if you're willing to share your email, drop it in the chat.
That's an easy thing too. And even if you just have someone's name, you can look them up in the app and contact them that way. But this looks like it's working out great. Everybody's sharing their emails. Oh, the other thing, one other thing I wanted to just throw out to the group. I was thinking about hosting another session like this in about a month, just as another check-in time. Would that be helpful to folks? You think? Yeah. Okay. We can do that. So that sounds good. We'll go. Yeah, we'll shoot for just about a month from now. And I would say too, I think at this point, like, feel free to invite other people. It's not just limited to the people who went to the conference. It's kind of more about just our ongoing work. So excellent. Well, thank you all for being here, for your participation. I'm happy. Joe and I will stay on for a little bit if anybody wants to chat or if you have questions. But I know that folks, some folks probably have other meetings they have to get to. So thank you for being here.
Y'all have a good one.
Thank you.
Dang, Rose left us now. It's down to Robin.
All right, yay, we did it.
Let's go ahead and end the recording.